And then we're going, they wanted to do something for John's birthday. John's going to be 70. And, well, June 15th is his birthday, but they couldn't get everybody together, you know.
We'll come.
Captiva. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but buy the ticket, we all go.
Captiva and August, just the whole family kind of celebrate his birthday.
That can be dangerous.
After the fact. And that was, but yeah, they're getting to the point where they're in school, and one of them has a swim team, and the California two are already spending a month with family and
Okay, on the go.
and where?
Yep.
Nantucket.
Are we ready?
Yep.
We're in
let's roll.
Nantucket.
They're at
My brother's in right out near the anchor in Nantucket. He's been up there for a month now working.
Okay, are we on? Are we all on?
Yes.
Okay. Ready, go?
His friend's house.
Let's call the May 28, 2013 Finance Advisory and Audit Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Lone Chu,
Here?
Vice Chair Reese Ryan,
Here,
Committee Member Ken Johnson, Committee Member Cheryl Miller,
Here.
Committee Member Virginia Standish.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's see, do we have the motion for the approval of agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Cheryl, second by Virginia. Any discussion? All those in favor, saying aye.
all right.
Aye, opposed, motion carries 4-0. Appointment of chair and vice chair.
Oh, you gotta do that. You haven't done the roll call.
So we let Mark have the floor and take the nomination.
Well, are there any nominations for the chair? Other body?
I'll nominate Lone Chair for chair.
Is there
I second.
second? Any other nominations?
I nominate Elise Ryan for vice chair.
Oh, wait, we gotta vote on, we gotta vote on the first
Oh,
one.
sorry, I thought you said any other.
Not nominations for the chair.
Chair,
Yeah.
specific.
Sorry. Okay, you can take over and do the vote.
Well, thank you for your confidence. I will serve at your pleasure. Thank you for deciding the successful election for me.
Any
You
other
ran
names?
a very difficult campaign.
No budget.
All those in favor saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So, thank you. I clearly
You
assume
can do
that.
the vice chair. Back to you.
So we have a nomination for Edith to be vice chair. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second, vice chair. Any discussion? All those in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. I thought we have a term limit.
That's right. I gotta do that for downtown. You're gonna keep us.
Term limits?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think we
Not
have
in the
term
charter.
No, and I don't think, I think it causes more problems sometimes having term limits.
Okay, consent agenda. Do we have the approval of April 23rd, 2013 minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Denise. Any discussion? I do have a little bit discussion. On page 3, agenda package 3 of 102, the last sentence there shows advice that this matter must be resolved before the end of the current fiscal year. This regarding gas tanks. So we plan to resolve it by the end of this year.
Well, the information provided to the council was that we either, and the attorney was, we would gain ownership or we would reimburse gas tax fund from the general fund for the amount of money spent on that North Road portion.
Reimbursed to whom?
What
The
page?
gas fund.
Right, to who
It's
the,
the issue of the findings from last year.
to
You gotta- you gotta-
the, you would return it to the source that was giving it to you, is what you're saying.
Gas tax paid for it, so we're gonna give the money back to the gas.
That's what I thought.
One of those two methodologies.
Either ownership of roads or refund. That's what was
Yeah.
discussed at the town council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, on page 4, old business, second paragraph. I think that's a little confusing here. I read it and I cannot follow. Upon question, the Churchill expressed that he does not believe it is not the responsibility.
Yeah,
Is it?
that's wrong. He does not believe it is the
It is.
responsibility. You need to take out a
One of
not.
the knots, we
Oh.
have too many knots. A knot
This
would be
is
a double
a
knot,
knot.
which
Yeah.
means it is.
It's gone, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, I would suggest that the word also follow the same sentence of the committee to perform management work rather than review. I mean, our job is to review management work. I think maybe I say it wrong, but that's not what I mean. To perform, I mean, we
Well,
don't.
they have to put what you said in
We have
there.
to review their work, I mean, not that, we don't perform their work. If you can change it to review to perform,
I can make a statement that you'd like it to
I-
reflect that I didn't know that's what, you said review, so
That's
I
review.
can change it to perform.
if you could listen to the tape, I don't mean.
You would,
review.
I would, okay, I would,
We review management work every time. Okay. And also for B, for the procurement requirement, refer item to the next meeting. Is this on today's meeting?
It's not on today.
No, I don't think so. I didn't.
I didn't see.
no, I didn't.
Okay, so
So obviously we're deferring it again.
Bring that next time.
Yeah, we need to defer it
It
again.
should be right, it should be B under old business.
On page 5, a little bit confusing to me personally. If you read this 1, 2, 3, the fourth sentence, staff advised that the exempt only applies to town-paid purchases and purchases made on behalf of the town or the consultant is subject to state tax, sales tax. What is this town staff versus town-paid purchases?
Well, if the town pays for it, they're tax exempt. If I go in with Underwood Management's credit card to pay bills for the town, it is not, I have to pay sales tax on it. Unless we're using the town's credit card or the town's check, but if we use our personal credit card, we have to pay sales tax. We're not exempt.
I understand that.
So,
I think the issue is, I think we talk about that, this is like the fourth meeting, we talk about the same thing. Why can't we have a town credit card?
You have to have it in somebody's name.
I can't give it to Mr. Fleischman and have Mr. Fleischman use it.
I thought you
Mike-
did request it at the town meeting, you brought it up.
we did, and we just, you understand that we can't just ask for an application, or we can't get a credit card. The town council, I had to personally vouch for the credit card, meaning I'm personally responsible for the credit card, so I had to sign an agreement with Wells Fargo. Mark's credit card, he is personally, because the town council, at one time when they were asked to sign, they would have to be personally taken they refused, so
Well, I
Frank
guess so.
Spence did it,
Why?
we've done it. The town council just signed the authorization form.
We all have Peacock. Do we not have Peacock?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Can't find the group.
We're not large
Because
enough.
we have the same issue this time we
No, we're
reimburse
we're-
Mr. is it Freshman?
We're not.
Same issue, I
we're-
think we could begin again, we over.
Can I say
I wouldn't
something
mind
about
to
Mr.
Give
Fleshman?
report to the council, this
I've
is,
been trying to get.
this is
I've been
this is
trying to
not
get
right.
people.
We're not big enough for
Nobody will
a
let
P
us
card.
in.
You're not
We're
right.
not large enough of a company, we don't spend enough money to qualify for any of the P cards. Number two is with Mr. Fleshman, he advised that because it's a cost recovery account, and the applicants are required to pay for those signs as part of their process, that those applicants are subject to sales tax because it is their expense for their specific item. So he buys the sign, and the cost and the sales tax is charged out to those applicants themselves. So the expense is really for the applicant, not so much for the town. Does that,
Well, I guess if, for sure, we could recover the cost.
well, we
we
recover the cost by charging that sales tax charge to the applicant itself. Mr. Flashman doesn't pay for anything of the towns that's not for cost recovery.
But y'all should still be able to have credit card.
We are, but we have to go through a process. It's not just fill out, just sign your name. You have to be personally responsible for that card itself. And the council has to sign documents, and it takes a little while, and that just got done. They're issuing another card for $3,500. So there'll be 2 cards.
Okay, as long as we can recover the cost,
Yeah.
that we don't. Okay.
Sir, I haven't charged anything for the town out of my credit card because I don't want the sales tax to show up.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion, right? Cheryl, you can motion, project termination. Cheryl, who do you have?
I think Cheryl made the motion and I seconded.
No, I didn't, I made
Yeah.
Nobody made the motion?
No, Cheryl made a
Cheryl
motion.
moved, Ryan seconded.
So,
No more discussion?
Go ahead.
Those in favor, saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving along. Okay, old business, 4A, implementation of cost recovery fee schedule. No action?
No action.
What's in the deal? Nothing to discuss?
Where are we?
4A.
Do we want to take that off? I mean,
Mm-mm.
No, you want to
No.
keep that?
This is your punch list.
Yes.
I know it's our punch list, but I'm just saying, what was your recommendation on how to handle that cost recovery fee
We're
schedule?
amending the ordinance and we're amending, we're creating a schedule.
Okay,
based
so
upon-
that
based
is
upon the
going to
action.
be
It's
done.
a cost recovery schedule, not a permit fee schedule like you're doing. It's
Okay.
sort of different.
Okay,
All right.
looking forward to having your schedule. 4B, sales tax charge. What is that?
That was your sales tax, Kevin, that you requested to be on the agenda.
You just covered it by bringing it up.
Just covered it.
You jumped ahead.
What's worse?
I hope that you could reflect a minute there to say that, that the payment for sales tax will be recovered from the permittees so that the town will not incur unnecessary expenses.
Does it reflect that cost recovery fee?
I think maybe it can be handled in the ordinance by a depiction of costs as a real cost.
Okay, good. 5A, new business. Approval of 2013 April financial statement.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Liz, we have a second.
I'll do that.
Second by Cheryl. Discussion. Number 1, budget versus actual. Mr. Manager, you want to walk through?
Well, I think we're very happy with you asking this question. We kind of look forward to it. I mean, Bill and I really do get excited when you ask us your questions and try to trip us up, so. Rather than give you an advantage and tell you anything about it, why don't you just go for it?
I thought that every
There are
time we
some
started from
items.
this side, this side will start from you.
Okay, well,
Go for it.
all I'm simply going to say is looking at page 6, using our cheat sheet, and yes, I went through, and because there are obviously a few items that are over the 100% mark, and I'm sure you are going to elaborate on those tonight.
I think you have an agenda item on this.
Yes.
And
Yeah, thing is, the way that,
Yes, I forget, I don't know what number it is, the fiscal
Yeah,
year.
at the
it's a
very
budget
end.
agenda, it's something.
Very end.
Right.
Did you see that, it's the very end?
But since you,
So we'll talk
The budget
about that
amendment.
on 5E.
C.
Oh, C?
Isn't
No.
it C, budget amendment? Yeah.
Oh, yes, C, review of budget amendment. So
Correct.
that will coincide with the amounts that are over 100%.
Well, within a group.
and if you, since you raised page 6, if you look at the contract service expenditure, you can see that with the exception of the town attorney, everybody else is pretty much in line.
Under budget.
So,
Has the water control district submitted an invoice yet for the 150,000? No? Okay,
Are you expecting one?
Mhm. This week.
okay.
The
We're
NPO,
expecting it to breeze right through.
Pardon?
We're expecting it to,
Breeze right through, that'll be wonderful.
we've been working on it for a
That
month
would be great.
together.
news.
That's good.
so that, NPO franchise fees, it came in about 34%. Is it reasonable?
They're usually at least 2 months behind,
Yeah.
so that's not unusual.
So that means they will, almost.
There are a couple of revenues that in the budget amendment we're recommending a slight reduction.
Yeah, when I read that, the budget amendment comments that you made on the communication services tax, there was an explanation in there that you wanted to revise the budget downward because some of the taxes are now, or you basically said it's going to be obsoleted.
It will be
And that's because of,
federal law.
oh, that's
We can discuss it now.
not good.
We can discuss it now if you would like.
That's a big blow for us because that's been a big part of our,
It's a big chunk of money. The state tried to, there was legislation this year where the state was addressing, but federal legislation says you cannot tax internet, anybody that provides internet service. So,
oh, but you can, what about,
but
okay.
the communication companies are becoming smarter.
Uh-huh.
And so they have learned that that cell phone you have is really an internet service.
What? Oh, my God.
Because it's all digital and it runs over the same wire that used to run your voice.
Mm.
So they have, the city of Tampa has seen a 40% reduction in that revenue stream in the last 5 years.
That's gonna make a big difference in this town, because that's been a big part of our revenue, communication services taxes.
Another city that I'm extremely familiar with.
So how come my cell phone bill has not gone down?
Well, it's not gonna affect your cell phone bill, it's just gonna affect the tax.
It
Yeah,
just,
but the tax is a big one,
It's $136,000 is what we budgeted for this.
Yeah, but the same, but the same thing is not happening with franchise fees. Is that correct? or-
The franchise fee, when we collected in October and November, we had to accrue it back to
Right.
prior year. So,
So we're 2 months behind.
so when we finish in October, Novembers and Decembers will be being accrued, Octobers and Novembers will come back in, so we'll be,
We'll be okay.
yeah.
We think. We're hoping. There has been some work relative to those at the state as well. Basically, the state legislature over the last 10 years has actually been working to try to eliminate local government. And that's what I was told by some people that were in the know. Not local government from the county perspective, but local government from cities,
What, they want everybody to just be county and not be cities? or-
basically. And 67 large cities.
What's the trend?
Uh,
So League of Cities is gonna be kaput.
The argument I got into with the
We're on real
individuals
estate.
was, well, who's gonna take care of streets? And they said, well, assessments. I said, well, what about recreation? They said, well, Walt Disney makes money, don't they? I said, what about schools? Well, you have charter schools, don't you? And so you can go on, all the services that government supplies can
Well, they have
actually,
to change the Constitution. I mean, we're a home rule state, right?
until there's a law.
Well, I
Well,
think,
they changed
I think the intent is aimed at more of the smaller cities,
Yeah.
getting rid of a lot of the smaller cities because of the duplication. Services are-
I knew they want to get rid of a lot of the,
Teeny tiny.
They
MSTU.
have had legislation to try to eliminate all cities with populations under 5,000. That has been proffered in the past, in the 80s and 90s, to eliminate those cities.
You know, I mean, there are some counties like Sarasota, which has really only 4 cities within the county, but then you have Broward and Palm Beach that have 30, 35 municipalities, Orange County, which has.
Broward did that deliberately. They said, we don't want enclaves, and they required people to form a city.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That'll
There are no
never fly.
unincorporated areas.
County doesn't want to do that. I mean, you know, no way.
No, this might be the opposite.
They want all the revenue.
This
And
could
none of
be
the
the
services.
Yeah, exactly.
They want the revenue and they don't want to provide the services.
That's not my political decision.
Put that on a common law.
But anyway, it's, the legislature this year was quite interesting, and next year will be just as interesting. They were actually trying to get all of the communication tax away. The state needed the money.
So in other words, the communication tax is going to the state, is what it still exists, it's just going to the state.
Well, no, eventually it'll go away, even to the state, because
They're allowing-
the companies are gonna say, hey, I'm doing voice over internet protocol, so it's all internet. So I don't have to pay tax on it because it's internet.
And that bill just failed in the Congress. I mean,
For taxes.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other one they keep trying to chip away at, and Bill knows this very intimately, is the business tax receipt. A lot of the big companies, like insurance companies, don't like paying each city where they have an office, and they try to say it
Well,
ought to
they
be.
did it this year.
They say, you shouldn't have to do that, you shouldn't have to pay all these business tax receipts.
Do we have any BTRs?
No. The county does. We collect some from the county.
Any other question on
Yeah, I know.
the finance, the report, finance report?
No, I just want to say one thing. You know, the journal entries, you know, I did have comments as I was going through it, and then I went back and saw your comments on your journal entries, particularly on planning and zoning, where we're going to make journal entries in the June timeframe, I saw in there.
It's in the back, it's in the back.
So, you know, page 87.
They're already done. They'll be reflected in your June reports.
They'll be reflected in the June reports. Yeah, they're not in this report.
No,
Okay, they were done in May, and then,
May the 15th and the 16th
okay.
on page 87.
Yeah, I was wondering why we wouldn't do it this month when we went away, but that cleared up, particularly some of the, I think there was some planning and zoning, are being moved, yeah.
But we think we've caught them.
Hmm?
We think we've caught them.
I think you got them all, yeah, I noticed that they weren't moved in this month's financial, so.
And we're trying it, when we find it, we try to tell them.
Any other questions regarding budget and actual?
No, that was really the only thing.
What about bank reconciliation? No question? General ledger? Bank statement? Cheryl, do you have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Let you know, this is probably, appeared before probably, I didn't catch it, but on page 18 of 102, I see that we're referring to the checks to the council as compensation, and I thought during our discussion, we were saying we weren't going to call it compensation, so is the official legal title compensation,
The
and
official
what
legal-
difference does it make?
Well, they're gonna get a 1099.
Okay, that's all, so they are 1099 on this, and it is compensation, okay.
You think it's most rudimentary before.
Cheryl, you have a question, right?
I do, on page 45 of 102. In the special events category, 511820, those two entries in April, what the heck are they?
Luminary sponsorship.
Mm-hmm. Sponsorship
I
donation.
know what one of them was.
One of them was the fire department, the cancer, right?
And the Relay for Life?
The Relay for Life,
Okay, so it was,
And
What about the
drowning.
charitable?
Yes.
and it's round, yes.
And the drowning.
Didn't we do one to Waxahachie Girls Elementary?
That'll be in your June report.
Hasn't come in yet.
So who's Luminaria then, when you, because we did drowning and the firefighters, right?
The firefighters with the drowning.
We did the fire prevention, we did the Relay for Life.
That's it.
We've done the PTA for the elementary school, and there was one more.
Because Cheryl was asking, you asked about Luminaria, right?
yeah, just with the two entries, what was the, they were for 500 piece.
Oh. I can't get into my system.
511.
Bill, do you have internet there?
I do.
If you could go to the Dropbox,
The drowning, it was the Drowning Coalition, it was the Relay for Life,
he could pull the invoices right
and now it
there.
was the school, elementary school.
Okay.
The Luminary is in April.
Mhm.
Well, then that has to be the fire rescue with the drowning coalition.
Yeah, we had a lot of them on that.
It was what it was various charities that were, and the donations added up to 500 apiece.
And there's been 4 of them, which they're over
I would
budget.
tell you, council has debated each time, because there is a portion of council who feels that they shouldn't be doing that.
Because it's taxpayers' money.
That's correct.
But one councilman did offer his own compensation as a donation.
That was on the
That was
Relay
Relay
for
Life,
Life.
yeah, that was.
But he has to do that himself.
Right, that's what was pointed
Exactly
out.
right, yes.
Right. He was asking if it could be done on behalf of the town, they said no.
49 of 102. Professional services, 541310. April 24th, the last entry. Why is it there? It says 2013 election matters for 1739. Should that not be under election expense?
Well, that was moved, as I remember correctly.
I didn't see where it was taken out of here, so that was my,
It has a,
Is that in the budget amendment?
I don't see that
Yeah.
remaining.
That's legal, that's legal, isn't it?
yeah, it says election matters.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that would be legal.
Yeah,
the
that-
professional services category,
yeah.
Yeah, all right, so it's just, okay, but the election matters kind of like, hey, wait.
that's when the lawyer.
That's not the whole shebang. The whole shebang for election was like 7,000.
Oh, I know, I saw
That's
it in
a
election
legal
expense, that's why I was
expense.
wondering, shouldn't this fall under election expenses? But it was the legal part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's correct.
that's the town attorney's bill.
Mhm.
In fact, you'll see several entries like that throughout the ledger report.
All right, and this particular question, I mean, I know it goes back a little ways, but it starts on 51 of 102 and ends on 52 of 102. I noticed that if there's a reoccurring charge here of $32, FDGL lease payment $32, what is that?
That's,
Well, this looks like the journal.
that's the lease payment for the machine that the town has to swipe credit cards if somebody
Oh,
comes
it's
in
one
to
of-
pay,
okay,
and
see.
it's on our bank statement every month.
So you're used to the journal. Cheryl's on fire. And I just had a quick question about items such as, when I was looking at the expenditures at the very front part of it on page 8, the items that we don't get often, like the auditor's stuff or election expenses, because the election occurs every 3 years, or do we have one, and did we set it up so we have one every year?
What, elections?
Every year?
Yeah,
Elections every year.
okay. But the auditors, we don't see very often, do we? We see him every year? Because I noticed that, and maybe I missed it. I noticed that it was something that was kind of, I don't remember seeing it in last year's budget, which was it, maybe I missed it. But if it's there, then it's budgeted for every time.
Yes.
He doesn't physically come, but he's auditing us every year.
He
Oh, no,
last year,
that's-
you might have been out. He was
He was
here.
here, and he went to the council meeting, and he goes to the office.
Right, I was at the meeting when he came and spoke, and Mr. Jerriel questioned him on the gas tax. He made some comments that I kind of didn't understand. He seemed to, it's Terry Nolan? is it?
Morton.
Terry Moore.
Terry Moore. I don't know if Mr. Jerriel was trying to get him to imply that the audit confirmed that the gas tax situation was okay, or is it as we discussed here, that you either get the roads,
Terry gave him the options to make it.
so that was, because I had a hard time hearing, he was so soft-spoken,
Yes, he
it
is.
was hard to hear
Yeah,
what
he
he said at the town meeting, so he did say what was said
Yeah,
said
and he
here
doesn't
tonight.
say a lot of words.
No, but he's so soft-spoken that we were having difficulty hearing that. All right, so he was on the same statements were made at the town meeting then,
Yeah.
okay.
It was brief, though, you're correct.
Any more questions, sir? Elaine?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, Mark, when they come, are they paid for coming to the meetings? No.
They're paid
Part of
a
their whole-
flat
Part
fee
of it.
and part
Oh,
of
Okay,
it.
part of it,
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
flat.
Flat fee. Okay, that's what I need to say.
That's why I thought Mr. Chu asked him to come, because that was part of his,
Yeah.
Part of it.
he insisted that he come to.
Virginia, you have any questions?
No, I can't wait to get to the rest of it.
Bank statement, no question? Okay. We have a motion to approve the second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. So that approved at 5A for all the financials. What about planning, zoning invoices and budget amendment? So that will be separate, right? Okay. But the planning and zoning, we only question it, but we don't have to approve. The planning invoices, do we have any question on that?
This is all cost recovery.
Now, you guys are doing a great job of making this very simple by putting, you know, the account on there so we can see exactly where it went. That's very helpful.
So all the costs that we reimburse freshmen would go to all the permittees, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
The permit that has filed.
Permit.
Unless the
Permutation.
council specifically authorizes.
Because I'm seeing here, he picked up the sign in April 1st.
Right.
He charged 1 hour, so I looked at 10 hours being paid for by them too.
Yes, it's all being, we're
$125.
not covering anything there.
Okay. No more questions on that? What about the budget amendment? So Bill is gonna go through that with us?
Real
We are-
quick, if you would like.
Yeah, I think we're done with A and B.
I guess first, I focused on the general fund more than the other enterprise funds or special revenue funds. And planning and zoning permits, apparently we had some things that are not coming in this year that we were hoping would, so we reduced revenues on that. And communication services tax, which we discussed a little while ago. I'm hoping that 20 is enough to reduce it by, we'll find out, June or July payment. Then we'll try to true up here very soon. We tried to offset the reduction in revenues, and we have some increases in expenditures. One of the offsets that we used was there was a fund balance increase that we're going to need $97,000 out of the unassigned fund balance in the general fund. We also increased cost recovery fees because we are getting the fees to correspond with the expenses. So those revenue items are as noted. Significant increases are legal expenses, and that's primarily due to lawsuits. The estimate is that will be an additional $60,000 for this year, bringing the total to $120,000. Planning and zoning professional services up to $18,000. Other aids to government agencies, the grant, Locks Hatch Grove Water Control District, there was discussion by the commission to provide $30,000. According to the new district administrator, he says 18 would adequately cover reducing OGEM costs. Legislative, obviously we had to put in money for the town council compensation. We had increased cost recovery expenditures and increased special magistrate for code enforcement. Right. Now, so there were some other decreases in appropriations because some areas we could take money from to offset the expenses. We eliminated the contingency fund in general government. We took $49,000 out, so it's now zero. We reduced computer services. We've been very fortunate this year. That's all calmed down. We're not going to need at least $5,500. Comp plan, we reduced that by $5,000. And legislative professional services we reduced by $5,000.
I had a question on that, but what type of expenditure would go into legislative? Would that be like if they decided they wanted
That
to
was actually
facilitate
going
for a
to be,
meeting
I
or?
think that was going to be the code of ordinances.
Oh,
Most municipalities have a
that's like moderators for meetings, really, because it wouldn't be if
it's book.
It's
Codification.
codification.
It's a
and that
laws.
goes in legislative, that goes in legislative.
Yeah, it's their law, it's their laws.
It's just, you've got,
You've got the ULDC, what we had hoped to do was get all the codes, ordinances that the council has approved, codified and in one location, one book, everybody could see it at one time without.
And-
We're still gonna try to get that started before the year ends, but we won't need
Won't need all
the element.
And you can't just do that online? You have to have a book?
It'll be online.
It'll be
It'll be able
online.
to
Right, it'll be
access
on
it to
website.
municipal code.
So you have, that's what I'm saying, you have.
It's a service that does it, and they standardize it.
They come in, they meet with you, they have conferences, what's your codes, what ordinances are passed, where it should go, that kind of stuff.
They provide a lot of very helpful advice in my experience over the years. Now, the balance of funds for transportation was the other one we hit. When the budget got adopted, there was $150,000 thrown into the 5 cent. We needed to move it to the 6 cent. So that's part of what we're doing in the budget amendment. We reduced special projects, $50,000. We used the money elsewhere. We increased town road maintenance by 40. We increased traffic control signs. Those are actually the signs we purchased from a local contractor, significantly saving a lot more than when we were doing it through the water control district. And we're going to put $3,000 back into the fund balance, and that kind of closed out the budget. All the detail, whether it's significant or not, is in the subsequent pages. There's $1,000 here, $1,200 there, $1,500. I only tried to get the big boys, but they're all listed. If you have any questions, we'll certainly entertain them.
So the new contract for the non-district roads that's going to be coming out of the 6 cent fund?
Everything's coming out of the 6 cent.
And vegetative and all of that all that is 6 cent fund.
Well, when you do the next year's budget, Pearl?
Oh, I was gonna say, when Virginia just said that, there's 2 6 cent. One is for the district, which has the 150, and then the first line item, which is town roads maintenance, 6 cent. That was 40, we've increased it to 80.
Okay, what page
That-
are you?
I'm on page 81.
Oh, okay, you're way ahead.
Well, you were just asking
Yeah, no,
about,
that's right, because I was,
there's two separate, one's for town roads and one's for district roads.
okay.
Okay, both of them are 6
But
cents.
there's only one source.
Yeah, there's one source of
No, but
money.
she's right, that's what I was asking, the break said the budgeting, the appropriations, so town roads maintenance, and then the 80, and then the 150 is the non-district, correct? Or do I have that backwards?
The
150 is for the district.
Okay. Because so then when it says town, the 541468,
Mhm.
is that the non-district?
That's the town.
That's,
We don't use the word non-district, it's town or district.
The 469.
I'm not going there, I am not going there.
Okay, don't go.
Okay, my question was, with regard to being able to use the, this is really just kind of a, we're gonna be doing next year's budget very soon.
Part of
And,
it is for you to review the season.
oh, you,
The calendar.
Well, there's CIPs in there also.
oh, the capital improvement plan, right, yeah, but I'm talking about expense budget for next year. We will, I hope, do plan, you know, put in a budgeted amount for the capital improvement plan, comprehensive plan amendment, so that we can get it in there and start using that 5-cent money.
That's, we're working on that now.
Yeah.
Talking about this year.
That should be,
Oh, it is,
yeah.
that should be done,
This year,
yeah.
good, okay.
That was.
Somehow I thought we were waiting for funding for that.
No,
No,
no, we need to get that in place in order to use funding.
yeah, but I thought you were waiting, that the council had not authorized.
No, you haven't seen a lot of activity with that because the emphasis has been placed on moratorium planning, on the hay sale, which has turned into a legacy kind of amendment, and then, of course, the ULDC review committee.
Okay.
Go back to,
just had to go there.
So basically, outside of that, that was the balance of the transfer modification to the budget that we're proposing for the town council in January. Taking a vote.
any questions?
No.
Sure. Any questions?
And then, of course, after that, you have all the journal entries that we're proposing.
Well, I do have a question on page 82, which you will probably answer. I think I'm gonna wait because you'll discuss it here in the budget, the capital improvement.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna reserve that, but I'll probably go back to 82 when you get there.
You have the money from the Charlie Light Okeechobee Road, we're still talking about D Road. What is the status now? Where are we up to now at the Charlie Light?
The status is we have met with Palm Beach County, and we know the situation. They indicated to us that there might be some additional site improvements because of having to possibly do some work with the D Road Canal as it relates to replacement of mast arms. At our last meeting, in fact, town council asked me to check into seeing if the county will allow for wire signals as opposed to mast arms. I don't think they will, but we'll make the request and see. The other issue is originally we were going to try to do this on a piggyback with Simmons and White, who is the engineering company that's doing the signal work for, one of the companies doing the signal work for the county. And we just recently, you'll see later, we'll be talking about it, but we just recently selected and council ratified engineering consultants, of which the traffic engineering consultant is going to be Simmons and White. So I have advised the council that rather than go the piggyback route, which the OIG does not particularly like anyway, because people aren't really following the piggyback rules, I indicated to the council that probably in the town's best interest to use our own consultant. And I'm in the process now of negotiating with them and hopefully getting better rates than the rates that are indicated in the contract they have with the county. And then, once we have that contract in place, we'll move forward with the design, or finally procuring the design of the signal.
Because the deal truck like been everybody's money for a long time. Okay, any,
What time frame are we talking about in terms of, if you're talking about contract, I mean, you have to go through the whole 9 yards of getting a contract?
Well, in talking with the town attorney, the hope is that we'll have the contracts ready for town council to approve on the June 18th meeting. And if that's the case, then the consultant and I can start on that shortly thereafter. How long it's gonna take them to design the signal and go through all the mechanics with the county, I can only guess. You're probably looking at a 2, 3, 4 month process maybe.
You're not gonna, I don't think we'll even see anything for a year,
Oh, that could be.
maybe longer.
Well, is it your understanding that the county's gonna require, not only if we put in the traffic light, that they're gonna require that we bring the whole intersection up to standards, which
Absolutely.
could include
Yep.
widening over?
Absolutely, you can, for example, you need to have transition on
Right,
on
no.
Dean Road approaching Okeechobee. You just can't do it from the dirt onto
Your
the.
numbers look kind of low for that. I mean, you know.
Well, I have indicated that to council. 250 that we currently have in the plan
Is not
And
enough.
that's
pretty
what I
much
thought it was
will cover the signal design. It will not cover any of the improvements, and that's what I indicated to council when I took that to them.
So when you get into planning next year, you need to increase that amount.
Well, if you look at your CIP tonight, we have increased it by another 50,000.
But that may not be enough.
That may not be.
Probably not.
When I looked at what you had in there, my first thought was, that's not gonna cover it if they've got to widen those intersections, put in the new culverts.
Does that mean the county is not gonna kick in anything?
Right now, the county is, because it's the town's request,
Okay.
even though a signal is warranted, it's the town's request, and I know the council has talked about attempting to secure the money, working on getting the county to reimburse us after we've expended the monies. Whether that's a good, whether we can do that or not, anybody's guess. So,
Well, let me ask you another question, and I don't know if this has come up or not, but has there been any discussion in any of our meetings about our town taking over on Okeechobee?
yes, in our planning meetings, in our planning discussions relative to planning for the Okeechobee corridor, yes.
And what, I mean, is that something that the county has asked us to do, or no?
No, we
The
haven't.
county would have to agree.
Yeah, we haven't approached the county.
I'm just remembering that when Wellington got into a big fight over a traffic light a few years ago, and the county refused to pay for it. And finally, there was an agreement made between Wellington and the county that if Wellington would take over Forest Hill, that's within its borders, that they could put the traffic light in anywhere they wanted to.
Right.
But that it was a package deal. And my question would be, is that something that we would like to have the town do, would be take over Okeechobee? Would that be a negative, or would there be state funding that would come with it? This came up during the incorporation because we had the opportunity to go ahead, put in the bill, we're gonna take Okeechobee. And we didn't do it because we thought, it might be a lot of expense. And then someone said, no, you get state funding that offsets that. So I'm not sure,
It's not a break even.
it's not a break even.
You can get some state.
But I mean, I know the county is not gonna want, I don't think the county would want us to take over Okeechobee because I think they want control of it. But if we said, okay, we'll pay for the traffic light and we'll take Okeechobee, then they might pay for the traffic light.
Well, here's why I don't think it's going to happen. The comments that we received from the public when we had our 2 workshops on Okeechobee and Southern, their idea of us taking over Okeechobee was for the purposes of putting medians and keeping it 2 lanes and redesigning
Well,
the
that's what the
corridor to
public
be
wants, yeah.
pedestrian friendly and all those good things. The county is concerned about moving traffic.
I know. Oh,
Therefore,
absolutely, I'm aware
that,
of that.
those two visions do not coincide.
But
So-
that's what, where I'm thinking from a negotiating perspective. They're wanting to have it both ways. They're wanting us to pay for the traffic light, but they still keep control over the road. And that, to me, doesn't seem fair. I mean, if they're going to keep control over the road, they ought to pay for the traffic light.
But remember, they didn't say they aren't going to put in a signal, they just don't believe they want to put the signal in at this point in time. They're saying, town, you're saying you want the signal now, therefore you pay.
In their priority list of capital projects.
It's not in
It's down the road. If
Oh, I
it
know.
shows up.
So the burden is on us because the town's pushing it for that location, whereas what you're saying, if the county came in when it comes time, they decide when they want to put it in, and they could put it in another location of their choosing.
Well, they're spending the money elsewhere for the next 10 years. They generally have a 10-year program.
Yeah, they want to move traffic. You're
And-
exactly
And
right.
this project.
And we don't necessarily-
Really had a split on council. It's been a 3-2 vote. Mayor Browning and Councilman Golsonay have not been in favor, and they've said, don't make it a priority. The way Underwood Management moves forward is when we have a majority vote, we move forward.
Yep.
But we're also taking into account the minority that's concerned, that there are other priorities that we need to look at, in addition to doing this. So it's always been on our radar screen, we've been working it, but, it hasn't been the first priority.
No, I understand. I'm just,
But you did a good
And
job of
I would-
explaining that it's a financial burden on the town because we're pushing it. And then there are.
And I think you have to look at the political realities. The political realities are you have 50,000 people west and north,
mhm.
and you have a lot of big landowners west
So we
and
should have
north.
put it in development corporation, is what I'm hearing, if we wanted to.
Let Palm Beach County pay for it, is what I'm hearing.
Phil, you have a question?
I was, if I'm not mistaken, there was over 5 consensus to move D Road at some workshop and things like that. I know there was.
A what?
All 5 council members says to,
Oh, no.
no, not this one.
Mayor
This time.
and Tom
This time,
Goldston.
if you go back some older time, I know all 5 of them says they want a traffic light on D Road.
No, it was never
I know.
unanimous. At one point in time, the mayor was in favor, probably when we first started with the town, because I know the mayor was having meetings and moving forward with Commissioner Santa Maria, but after he changed, and I believe Councilman Golsonay was always against the light moving forward, and the mayor then joined him. But we still have a majority in
We
favor
still
of
have
it.
3,
so-
yeah. I think we should go ahead and move.
You're right, the political realities are the people west and north have a lot more oomph,
Yep,
a lot more votes, a
yep,
Oh,
lot
sure.
more money,
yep, it's gonna happen, right?
and the county is not gonna gain anything by giving it up.
See, the council talked about a, public relations campaign and
Nope.
get the folks out and storm, the county building and try to, hit the commission with, trying to reimburse us, and sometimes that works, and sometimes,
I have seen it work,
yeah.
but you gotta take like busloads, and you gotta go to the meetings, and you gotta be there, and you gotta spend.
But if I have some dice, you're basically rolling it.
Okay, anything on the budget amendment? Any other questions? So we're going to present to the council. And,
They'll just get, they won't get the budget amendment. This is for your edification, this is just internal operations, so you know what it is, we know what we're planning on. There's council, there's internal workings. And as long as they get a budget report, that says this is where it is, this is the actual, and what it's at.
They're getting the budget amendments going to the council with an
Well, they
adopted
get
resolution.
this.
I was gonna say,
At their
yeah,
next
the
meeting.
budget amendment, it's going.
Yes, that's, yes,
The way you said it.
yeah.
No, it's gotta go. I think the next item is
okay,
tentative budget.
next item is the correcting entries. Any question on that?
That was the one we just hit. That's gonna be attached to a resolution that goes to the council.
Hey,
The
Judy.
budget amendment, right?
Yes.
Not the correcting entries.
I thought it was C.
I don't.
The budget amendment.
Yeah, you don't have to break it down.
Yeah.
The budget amendment is all that stuff in the green.
correcting entry, any questions? Seeing none. Item 5E, fiscal year 13-14, tentative budget calendar.
88 at one of
88. May 28, Design Capital Improvement Program. Okay. Any question on this calendar?
Page
88.
What's the date of the FAAC meeting next month? I know you had it on there, June 24th, Monday. Okay, so we will see it on the 24th. And then, okay. Yeah, I know the council likes for us to look at it. But what you're saying is you're gonna have a discussion with the council on the 8th to get their assumptions that they want to go into that budget.
It's always not. We
You need to
invited
do
them
that,
last year.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a preliminary
Oh, yeah.
meeting, Bill and I have
I
one
don't know
on
if any
Saturday.
others showed up.
Well, yeah, we had Ron.
Okay.
Councilman, or Vice Mayor
I
Joe.
wish they come in and provide their input so we can take note of it.
Absolutely,
Make
yeah.
changes.
It's their
It's their plan.
Mhm.
Have you had any heads up on, what our property tax base is gonna do for next year? Is it gonna go up or down? or-
Yeah, well, first it was, looked like it was gonna be a 4.5% increase, but I signed off on it today, it looks like it's a minus,
What?
it's a minus 0.44. So a little less than a 0.5%. Yeah.
You mean minus?
Down again.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's not bad considering the other years, though. I mean, it was much, yeah.
I said it's gonna
It's
go-
getting better.
Gonna go by 3% in general.
Preliminary numbers look like it was 4.5%, 4.57% going up.
Hope you.
They can make another change between now and July.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get the budget book on the 24th, and we're gonna have a meeting that same day on it? Is there any way we could get a little bit earlier than that? Like days earlier, or, so we could review it before the meeting?
If it's done.
If it's done.
Could have usually send it to us on Friday, right?
Well, you can review it in July, right? And the council's not gonna be looking at it till, sometime in August. I mean, you're getting the book, so you
Okay.
could start reviewing it then.
All
So on the July meeting, we
July
can
19th.
schedule just to go through the budget, so when it goes to the council in August, they've already have your recommendations in it.
Okay.
And I think the 24th envisions us giving you a little presentation and
Yeah.
telling you what it's all
What's in
about.
there, what's going on. The 19th of July, the commission actually sets the tentative assessments and notes.
Are we on
Yeah,
page?
and that's tentative, July 16th. They could actually set it then, the preliminary millage and assessments, but no later than the 19th, we think. August 4th is the deadline. Drop dead date. Presuming they get it to us July 1st.
Any other questions and comments?
Are we on page 89 yet? We're just done with page 88?
Yeah,
As long as you like dating.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the capital improvement program. Item 5F.
Well, I'm gonna do it. Alright. Well, this capital improvement program is a little bit different than the one you received last year. Even though we haven't spent a dollar yet on last year's, this year's capital improvement program. I guess the biggest change is if you look at the development of town hall alternatives.
Thank God.
We moved it out of the budget year for this year, we moved it, and for next year, we moved it into FY18. see it there, so now it's not in the budget year, it's just in the overall planning program. But for the budget year,
Can we reword that? Because that also includes the land purchase, right? It's not just the development of alternative, I mean, when I looked at your detail, you have $350,000 for land on fiscal year 18. And, I mean, just from from the perspective of somebody who might not know what that is, if you look at the development of town hall alternatives, 500,000, you know, I would say, well, why in the world are we gonna spend 500,000 trying to figure out where we're gonna put the town hall and planning it, you know? I mean, that's what it would look like, but it's really land purchase
Well-
/
It was site
Well-
development, wasn't, no, I thought it was a bit more, engage needed professionals to identify, select, purchase, and design town hall is your description, which I did have questions on that, I had questions on the title also. I also had questions on the description.
well, you
But
have,
if you look at page 90, you've got $350,000 for land, and I'm assuming that means the purchase of land.
okay, let me.
Use this building as a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because that would be a building in the land
Yeah,
together.
let me say this, it's pretty, considering what we're doing, I think that the reason, I think it was Bill who came up with this development of town hall terms, that was yours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that was rock.
Rocket. Well, in any event, it is a very good title, because in looking for a town hall, it's a wide spectrum. I've talked to people about possibly getting a donation of land, or we wouldn't have to spend a cent on it. Or the other thing is buying land and getting some donations on building. What Perla is referring to is, I've talked to the executive director about possibly purchasing this building. Right now, it's not in the cards, but I've heard the sands are shifting. So, you know, we might have a purchase of this building, make this the town hall, if the chamber decides that they want to be more centralized with Lake Worth and all the other areas that they now serve in their chamber.
How much do
When,
you
you
want?
remember when the pond siding project that was just concluded, one of the things we talked about was a joint use agreement with the state for land, which they would give us in order to have the joint use on the pond, and then we could potentially take that land and make that the town hall. So
Where
therefore,
is that?
no purchase of land again, it would be
Where-
construction. But it's kind of tough to say that in a budget sheet, all that stuff, because it's
Yeah.
wide open, it's not, you
Yeah,
know.
okay.
Where's it?
It's alternatives. Yeah.
Where's it, the state, the land we talk about? Give us.
For the, if you're doing the pond
They were
side.
they were siting ponds up and down Southern for the expansion of Southern Boulevard. In each basin, they needed one pond. One of the things that they like to do, they being FDOT, is they like to get into joint use agreements with the municipalities that are involved. And what they do is, although I didn't see the documentation and how it works totally, what they indicated to me was, if, for example, if they have a 5-acre site and they need a 3-acre pond, the agreement will talk about the joint maintenance of it, but for the other 2 acres, they're giving us all 5 acres, and the other 2 acres, potentially, if you needed to use an acre or whatever for a town hall, they didn't care, as long as they had access and the pond was being maintained. The problem with that is early on in the process, there were several sites that were viewed very favorably as joint use ponds, but after they did their very elaborate matrix on how they determined, it ended up that most of the pond sites pushed closer to Southern Boulevard. And some of the joint use ponds, which were a little further back toward Clinton Canal, fell out of favor in terms of the rankings. In fact, one of the sites that was going to be a joint use pond was across the street, you know, where the Medical Growth Center is currently being built, and up, 2 parcels up. So that we could kind of create a synergy here on this intersection, if that was the case. You'd have a chamber, you'd have a town hall, you'd have medical. That's what we were thinking, if that came to fruition. But unfortunately, that site was number 2 and then dropped to number 4 in that basin. So, maybe I'm telling you more than you want to know, but that's how the pond deal is working.
And I guess this is also contingent on what Bill said at the beginning of this meeting. If the state is ruling out, how did you say that? Trying to get small towns to go away? What was the?
There were, legislation was proposed to eliminate 5 or 6,000.
And how strong is that?
Comes up, it rears its head every so often.
The idea is to reduce the tax increase
Right.
to many governments.
Right.
I'm not sure that would fly the union plan.
Mhm.
I think this
I don't
that
think it-
could be.
I don't think it would even fly with the, I mean, I think.
Well, the legislature does get to do what they want to do.
We're features of the
Well,
state.
yeah, but no, they don't. They can't change the Constitution without a referendum, right? I mean, that's.
Well, they're not changing the Constitution.
We are creatures of the state,
What?
we are creatures of the state.
They're not changing the Constitution. They're changing the town's Constitution, but they're not changing their Constitution.
I'm gonna, but the special taxing districts, I understand, but we're a home rule state, and I believe that's in the Constitution.
This is a very, this, for a home rule, is pretty good.
Even if you're a home rule, state has the authority to regulate you.
They
Whatever
can
they
take
want
a
to
butch
do.
out of business any day they want.
My reason for bringing that back up again and how likely it is, and we're looking at spending money for town hall alternatives. And that's why I was just asking what the strength of that movement was, how likely it is to happen in the
It
next 10,
seems
20
to
years.
come up every 7 to 10 years.
And then it goes
Just-
away.
And it comes up, bubbles to the surface, somebody goes, that's a great idea, we need to get rid of
So
that.
before costs become prohibitive and people realize the true cost of what it takes to build a town hall, we might be able to afford it if we choose to do so.
Well, what happens is, the more you invest, the better your chances are that they won't come take you away. Because they're gonna have to make it good to somebody.
Grow our population.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the capital improvement project?
Oh, yes.
And again, they're.
Go ahead, and then next question.
Right.
They go for-
We're not done here. Couple of things. And I make this ridiculous statement, I've made it at a town council meeting. I see we have the town road survey on here, and we have collected canal, that's for road improvement.
OJ,
Right, the town is now paying that, we are going to be getting that road.
that was the understanding that the council.
And what is the timeline that we will be getting that road for our expense? What does the contract say?
We don't have a contract yet.
So do they get the money before we get the something in writing?
This is this money stays with the town. As I understand the council's action was, they said, and the attorney agreed, I think he actually proposed, that once the road is delivered to the auspices of the town, then we can begin the project of OJing, doing the survey and all the elements necessary to get it OJ.
So the 362 in 13 is for collecting canals for what? The 362,000 in
That
this year?
was the construction of the OJ, the application of the OJ.
Okay, and so then it proposed in 14, we're looking at almost $1 million, 943,000.
Because what the 362 didn't cover would be the surveys necessary and all the additional costs.
Is that a survey for only collecting canal?
The collecting, that whole right of way, collecting canals, 6 Court North,
All the way up
yeah,
east and west.
yeah, because they want the
But
other.
I thought, are they going to survey all the roads that we get?
That's
Well,
where
we
I'm
have-
going with
we
my
have
next
that
question.
under the town road survey.
No, this is,
This-
she knows where I'm going with this. My next
What we
question,
don't-
my next question is, so we're looking to spend almost $1 million close to $1.5 million. I am overestimating on collecting Canal Road. We have a town road survey for $200,000. My question is, how much has it been asked of the surveyors? How much would it cost to do a survey of this town if we're doing all this work on roads and surveys?
We have not asked them because we don't have them under contract yet.
But
And
could we
this-
ask them?
I'm sure we can, but this was a council-driven project.
Right.
It's what they want to do, so if they want to do it, this is the mechanism that they get it done in.
So the public needs
And
to
it's
ask.
really separate from doing townwide surveys.
And there has not been a priority on which roads would be surveyed depending upon, you know,
Right.
That's why I'm trying to
Or some
understand this budget.
applications.
What this budget is saying is just, it's specific to one road And
Correct.
town roads is not specific to the entire
No,
town.
that's
This
just-
is piecemeal budget.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand what I'm saying. It's a piecemeal budget, thank you.
But Virginia, of that 943,000, 855 is for the OGIM on Collecting Canal.
Well, it could be some rock and.
Well, whatever it cost to OGIM Collecting Canal, it was based on the estimates that CLEAT provided. You know, when they OGIM the roads, we're using that number per mile.
Okay.
Okay, so the 100, out of 900 plus 800,
855 is the OGIM.
What, 177 miles?
so, like
Is there any way that they could revisit the speed hump?
There's nothing in there for.
We didn't put anything in there.
But because the speed hump will cost money.
We have talked at recent council meetings about, once we have our traffic engineer on board, about having them do a study for us in terms of the proper speed hump, the maintenance, proper template as it relates to applying the speed hump to OGIM roadways, whether the current application of 500 feet between speed humps is appropriate, because we heard some traffic engineers tell us that they wouldn't sign off on it, even though the district had an engineer who did.
Too close to
Guardrail is the preferred method. Doesn't, you know, just because you're putting speed humps doesn't necessarily mean you made that road totally safe.
Just helps you go in the canal.
There were a lot of discussions on that in the water control district in past years, and the reason for not putting in guardrails is that they are prohibitively expensive.
No question.
And we basically can't afford them and never will be able to afford them on these roads. So the speed humps were an alternative, and there was a lot of concern about liability. But what the attorney eventually said, once we had discussed it for several meetings, was that when you do put down OGIM and you put in speed humps, it is safer than the dirt road was, because you have you're slowing down the traffic, you're cutting the speed. I mean, you're making the road safer, and therefore you do not increase your liability. You can't increase your liability by putting in a safety improvement.
That's what's wonderful about engineers and attorneys, that they have different opinions. I will tell you, the engineers will tell you that speed humps are a traffic calming measure. It doesn't ensure or guarantee that you're not going to have an accident.
No, it doesn't
Because
guarantee it.
some people think that it's fun and it's a game, and they want to take these speed humps at 30 miles an hour or
See how high
faster.
that
Yeah, see, I think you do it.
It's not, they weren't saying that it's 100% safe. They were saying that it's better than dirt.
Right.
That's all, which
Even
it
still,
is.
yeah.
And what I'm saying to you is, when we were interviewing traffic engineers for, under the CCNA, some of them opined that they are concerned about that 500-foot speed humps on the OGIM roadway from a standpoint of liability, including one saying, I wouldn't sign off on it. That's for his professional
I don't
liability.
think they've been willing to sign off on anything on any of our roads, because we don't meet state standards, and we never will. Again, that's way too expensive.
I know, but my question is, once we get a road engineer on board that if we get the chance to revisit it, do we really need every 500 feet?
Oh, that's the
I think
question.
that's something we need to address, because it's,
Irma's got it.
Council seems inclined to have our traffic consultant, when they come aboard,
Yeah.
actually do that study, as long as it's not cost prohibitive on the study.
it creates a lot of headache. I mean, you go up, of course, for
Yeah.
those who want to drive fast, no matter what, they'll go fast.
They could improve them by just saying they can slow it more gradually.
Further, a bit,
On the question of the speed humps, on the estimate that we received from the Water Control District on the OGIM, and that cost encompassed the cost of speed humps.
right, I just want
So,
to reduce
That,
it.
in that $855,000 number, that would have included the cost of the speed humps, the signage of the speed humps, the painting, the striping of the
But
speed
just on
humps.
a collecting canal,
On
not on
collecting,
any other roads.
on collecting canal. That number right here, when he was asking about the speed humps for collecting canal, that would be included in that $855,000.
Okay, let me ask this question. When can the state come in and force us to put in state-approved roads?
Never.
Town has nothing. They have 22nd North.
That's it.
Did what?
The town owns 800 feet of 22nd North.
148 turns north.
And 148.
That 148
Oh, the
years.
culvert,
Yeah.
only the culvert. We only own the piece from this side of the bank to that side.
No.
That's all we own.
Then you're a landlord.
That's all we own. The state can't make us do anything.
Okay, let me back up here. We're paying for all this OGM because we are supposed to take over ownership of these roads, correct?
Well, this in particular, this one was for collecting mouse.
Right. So we are paying all this money and expecting to take over Collecting Canal Road. And the town is to own Collecting Canal
We're gonna
Road.
take it over first, I think, is the way.
Yeah, the
yeah.
plan,
That's the plan
Right.
now.
However you guys do it, God bless you.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll believe it when we see it.
Well,
But
it's better than doing it the other way.
Anyway,
What,
my
they're
question-
taking over a road, all of the OJ roads,
Right.
not just collecting
so,
now.
so my question is, when the town is going to own these roads, correct?
Yeah.
So my question is, when the town owns these roads, not the situation now, when the town owns these roads, as compared to what's happened in other municipalities, how long does it take for the state to come in and say you need to bring a road up to to FDOT?
you could probably actually, with your comprehensive plan, establish a level of service, which is a bike path.
Yeah.
Is what?
In the comprehensive plan, there's an element called the transportation element. Technically, the town could adopt a comprehensive plan that says, we're only gonna allow bicycle paths, or horse paths, or,
Golf carts. Right.
and then the state would say, well, if that's what they adopted, that's what they adopted, you get to do it.
No matter what is in our circumference and on our borders.
This is my understanding of the comprehensive plan.
You know where I'm going with this.
I am willing to be changed, but that is the whole line.
The state comprehensive plan always envisioned the state, county, and larger roadways within the city. Technically, all our roadways pretty much equate to a local road, with the exception of Okeechobee and Southern and Folsom, which is a county collector. I don't think there are any other roads that have a greater designation. You can create service levels for local roads, but I would tell you that that's in its infancy
Well,
in
just
terms
to
of application, and it's coming along, and there are some folks that even try to do fees and impact fees on local roads, which was a no-no in the past, but it's starting to happen.
Well, my purpose in asking is to make sure that the town council is aware of what they need to do to prevent these roads from being forced to come
I
up.
can't imagine that they would ever do that. It's prohibitively expensive. We
It
don't
is.
have the money. I
Right.
mean, and they'd have to, okay, can you imagine all the little roads that,
No, I'm not talking about all, I'm just making sure that no road ever has to be, that the town, and my statement has always been that this town should never bear the cost of infrastructure. That is my number one statement. This town should never be forced to bear the cost of infrastructure. And FDOT, you know where I'm going, an FDOT road can be forced if there's enough traffic. Unless the town has a policy of, like you're saying, bicycle paths.
I mean,
Well, the road's gotta be developed by the people that own the land that are on either side of the road.
Okay. Just making a point in time when we've had this conversation.
But your comment was very broad when you said no infrastructure.
As always.
Yeah.
Broad intentionally.
There could be something that you're gonna be required.
I just see it as, you know, kind of
It is,
practically impossible.
I hope so.
Well, if they ever came to our little roads, which have what, some of them 300 trips a day, 400 trips a day, and said, well, you've got to bring them to state standards. The estimate that we got for doing all the roads out here, the main roads, was $50 million. Well, we don't have, but it wouldn't just be like such a Groves that would be paying $50 million. it would have to be every other little town in the state that had.
Virginia,
So
you-
it's not gonna happen.
I'm just
You know the town
concerned.
has infrastructure now.
Oh, I know the town has infrastructure now, and that's why I'm saying we need to avoid bearing any additional cost of infrastructure. The residents should not be bearing that cost, when it should be, as much of it should be placed on developers as possible.
That is fine.
I'm just going there.
Okay, why don't we state with our.
Wes,
Yeah.
I do have a question, something. The agreement that we made with the auditor on the gas tax issue,
We didn't make an agreement.
well,
We
it
had to make-
basically
we-
said,
we
okay,
compared
what
response.
has to happen by September 30th in order for,
Either the segment of the road that was paved be titled to the town.
and you're not talking about an easement, you're talking about a legal title.
What is necessary to capitalize that asset. That generally means you own it.
Well, let me just.
I have yet to see, as soon as somebody provides me an opinion, I will be the first one to back out of the argument. Give me the opinion that says, yes, the easement's there, and you can capitalize that asset, and I'm on my way. I'm happy to pay the slot. But
So what
you
you're
have
saying
not
is you
received
don't
it, you
think-
haven't received an opinion relative to that. In fact, just to the contrary, the attorney said, no.
Okay, so it's an ownership thing that has to happen by September 30th, right? Because they're negotiating right now. I mean, the district doesn't own the roads. The district owns an easement on those roads, and they're in the process. Right now, they're communicating with Southern States Land and Timber, and requesting that, they requested a quitclaim deed. They got back a letter that said, we'll be happy to do it for a fee.
Of course.
And then,
Said they even were gonna invite them to come down and talk to the town.
and, I mean, it's kind of going back and forth, but there's no funding to purchase that land. So,
Well, then,
How much money are they talking about?
I don't know. It's, right now, they're really at the point where the correspondence is going back and forth between the Water Control District and the Board of Southern States Land and Timber on that.
they may be just interested in no fees. They want their fees covered.
Well,
as
they have offered to do the fees. There was discussion about, well, we need more money. We don't just need, you pay, we want you to pay us. And a letter was written back that said, we don't think we should pay the cost. And, many good reasons were given, that this is a liability.
Right,
for
Mr.
you.
Rowe
It's
brought
not
that up
an
in the
asset.
landowners meeting, he did,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's just an FYI on this is what's happening. It's, they're proceeding to do it as quickly as they can, but they don't call all of those shots. And
Well, if it doesn't happen, then I mean, it's not the end of the world. That's why
it comes out of general
Who
fund.
gets general fund money? Is it just general fund money or the?
Yeah, but, okay.
I just have a question. If we need a legal opinion, can we ask our lawyers to do it or somebody else to say, hey, give us an opinion?
We have.
Then why don't, I don't understand.
We pushed it as far as we can. The only people that can take it any further would be the town council requesting that opinion. I would take the opinion from the auditor general, the state attorney, the town attorney.
That you can't, basically, that you can't capitalize.
Says that
Unless you own
this concept of an easement is adequate enough to capitalize. I guess that would be fine.
The town attorney's response to the auditor was, we can't capitalize it because we don't own it. So the town attorney has a
Well,
position, not in writing, his position is we have to own it. But we're talking about that 3/4 of a mile on North Road that we owe Jim, not all of North Road, just the 3/4 of a mile that the
Two little
district,
sections, yeah.
that the district didn't owe Jim, that we picked up.
Right. It's just that little piece. I know. I'm just saying, we're almost going in a circular logic
I
here.
think, why don't we go ahead and finish our capital project improvement plan first, and
Although
when we have spare time, talk about this global issue.
It is-
I worry about
Right.
Afghan safety than more than the ownership of the road. Can we move on to the next one? I see on page 90 of 102. I mean, not that one, the next one. 91.
Trails.
Trail, we call it trail, but why description, we call it a linear park? Had anything to do with trail in the park?
Well, there could be a trail in that linear park, yeah.
A trail in a park?
Like a horse trail?
Yeah.
Or a walking trail?
Sixth Court North has been earmarked, not earmarked, that's not the right word, it's been identified as a trail for the longest time.
I know a trail, but a trail is like a trail, a roadway. A park is like a park, like a lot of land.
Well, the linear strip was envisioned to be 300 feet. You need about 25 to 35 feet for a good trail, good horse trail, it's not.
Yeah, I know. But we're talking about linear parks is like, I mean, if it's called.
This project was added on to the CIP this year at the request of Councilman Golsonay, and the council agreed. If you notice, no monies are identified for the coming budget year.
I know that.
They're moved out to the planning area for FY 15 and 16, because
Okay.
once again, there was the issue when we applied for the grant that we did
Okay.
not have site control over any of the areas. Therefore, that led to the discussion about what form of ownership, if at all, is necessary and needed.
Because I was at that meeting also, that the only consensus was to have the trail. The park was not, I don't think they ever have consensus on the park.
Well, the park is in the comprehensive, the linear
I know.
park is in the comprehensive plan. Now, there are you're right, there are
But it's not
varied
connected to
opinions
the
on it.
trail, but not connected to the trail. I don't want, I don't know when did it happen that suddenly put the park, linear park as part of the trail.
Oh, that's been interesting.
Councilman Golsonay raised an issue with the trail on Sixth Court North, and council agreed. It's actually a project. The problem has been, the previous administrator of the Water Control District indicated that he wasn't sure about the easements in place throughout the entire section of that trail. And that's one of the reasons why we've identified surveying being necessary.
That's why there's all the other collecting canal and the surveys,
Exactly,
it's all
exactly.
going together.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there are some folks that believe we do have a good handle on the easements. I don't know, I like to be sure of myself before spending any money, but yeah, in that linear park area, there would be a trail.
I think we have to be careful that the first lesson we learn is a small town like ours, to own a park is cost prohibitive.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Much less about you have to develop it.
we could take development of a linear park from A Road to Folsom Road out and just say various trails throughout the town, or make it more general if we have to, that's fine.
Yeah, I know, I'm not trying to put a word in your mouth.
No.
I want to make sure that when you're talking about trails, and you have the linear park. I mean, park we know for sure is a very costly item for a
Well, I think we need
Be
to,
careful.
I would suggest leaving the wording and ask for council to elaborate, give you more information, what I would say. I would leave the wording and ask council for more information if that's what you want.
No, I want to make sure that, I know that in the meeting that I attended, that they were talking about the trail almost 99% of the time. And suddenly Tom goes and they mentioned about the park. I didn't see much of a fuzzy warm, welcoming sign from the other four to put a park. So now I see these two connect together.
Oh, you saying the word park, and that's
Yes.
what's going, the
Yes.
park
Yeah.
part of
They
it.
probably should read development of a trail within.
Yes.
Linear path,
Maybe that would be.
Or connected to the link, or,
The linear park was the capital improvement plan originally. Last year, the council removed it and changed the word to trails. But this whole project,
was it park?
yes, it was first a linear park until the grant was
Okay.
denied. And then in our last budget, they just changed the word of the project to trails.
The grant was for trail, not for park.
Originally, the capital improvement plan was for Linear Park.
Oh, I know.
And it was called a linear park grant match, because remember I said
Yes,
earlier,
yes.
we applied for a grant and it went south.
Wow.
We didn't have site control.
Because that, what's the firm's name, Giordano, make it up at the last minute to get the grant, and then they get the money.
Well, it was the grant that we
We
worked on.
did our grant,
No,
the
they
state
denied.
denied.
Oh, you also
They did it free.
Oh,
No,
I'm
ours.
sorry, I'm
They
sorry.
did it
Yeah.
at no
I,
charge.
okay, I get it mixed up, because Giordano also proposed a plan to get a grant,
Yeah.
and then we paid
Oh, I'm sure they may have.
$8,000, $12,000, and then we get nothing.
Every week they had a new proposal for
But,
it.
and
Yeah.
this is contingent upon a grant, and it's
Yeah,
200,000,
okay,
so it's
okay.
not like it's gonna be a,
To make sure that we mix them up, because they
Again, it won't be in
probably.
the capital budget year.
yes,
Yeah.
we see that it's been moved again.
Yes.
But it coincides with collecting canal project and the surveying and getting, like you're saying,
Okay.
getting the correct information.
I want to make sure that
Before we go.
we are not doing the trail and put money in the park.
The public policy question the town faces there is that there's a lot of money going in that one little section of the town.
Yes, it is, but I
Canal, the
believe,
trails, you know.
well, it's the 800 and some odd thousand on the OJM is the big money. I think the trail is actually gonna be a small portion of it.
Right.
That will be maintained, you know, that's what I'm saying, when you see the actual plans and the grant, that's when you know how big this thing is and how you'll get you more information to see how, if it's actually cost efficient, that the district will be maintaining.
Okay, can you move along to other project?
Well, the next one is the town road OJM projects. For that, we only put in $100,000 because these projects have not been identified yet.
So that's
More
just
than
like
one.
emergency money, planning for if something should come up.
Right. We already talked about collecting canal. Traffic light at Okeechobee, as we indicated, we added another 50,000 to it. We might need to move those numbers around a little bit in terms of the expenditure schedule. You're really looking at the signal design and then the related construction improvements related to the installation of that.
Unlike the leases I did, that the county would pay for.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah.
Hey, we're trying to pinch the pennies, that's why we're not.
That's right.
And then the town road survey, again, is the same thing. It's over 2 years, $100,000, because at this point, we don't know yet the priority of which roads are going to need to be surveyed. They go hand in hand with building projects and other needs.
And that's where my basic question comes up, is, hey, ask the surveyor what they charge to survey everything. Don't be afraid. I sense sometimes that the town council thinks, oh, it's gonna be an overwhelming number. And it may not be in these economic times. 3 years from now, it may be a really overwhelming number when everyone's busy, but right now, everyone's slow.
Okay, any other question for the proposed capital improvement program?
So you want us to lead on, modify, roll away?
I think, no, this is the prerogative of the town council. So, I mean, I appreciate you bringing it to at least a good briefing.
Well, let me just offer a point of view. I mean, it's my feeling that, I know there are some folks who are a little upset that we haven't moved more aggressively on the capital improvements program. But considering the number of issues and some of the uncertainties involved with that, it's probably better if we keep the money in piggy bank and wait till we know for sure what we're doing. So I don't see that as a problem that we haven't moved fast enough, because at least we still have our funds and we haven't gone foolishly and, made bad expenditures as a result.
I would suggest that at the next whatever available meeting, get somewhat clear direction from the town council to see which one they want to move ahead. I mean, the money is sitting there, and we need to make the best use of it.
You'll get that. That's envisioned to happen before we come back to you. We'll be talking to them about that.
I think the traffic light is important, and anything is important. OG water roads is important.
Survey would help.
Of course, you have to have a survey to do all of that.
A survey of the surveys?
You could start with a survey, just suggestion.
I was just thinking also, talking about, if you look at it, a traffic light makes no sense. You only got $200,000, and collecting canal, you got almost $1 million there. And traffic light affects everybody in town, not just the people on collecting canal. if you
Well,
look at it.
there's another project that may, fall in here because council has been talking about a traffic signal at Southern and D Road. And we're trying to figure out how to address that and how to see if we can get the state to agree with us. And, we're not sure at this point whether we're gonna have to expend funds to do that. We may be told the same thing, if the state's not inclined, or there are 8 warrants that a traffic signal must meet in order to be approved. I was informed that, 8 categories of warrants. However, I was informed by our future traffic consultants that you only have to actually meet one of them, which is much better than what we thought. But all of them relate to traffic volumes. There is one category that's crash data. There's a couple special needs kind of things. But 4 out of the 8 relate to peak hour volumes and volume of traffic during the day, and you have to meet those requirements. Our council seems to be more inclined to try to go a political route too, which you can do. But again, now, you're not talking to county, you're talking to state, you're dealing with a little bit bigger animal, so. But there could be cost there.
I think that personally, in terms of safety, for the benefit
Yes.
of citizen, D road and local service should be one. If we go spend money on the southern, I think Wellington should pay for it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, we should spend it.
Yeah, no, we should not go
You know,
over
sometimes
the
it's
state road, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a state road.
State, yeah.
The concern is that folks are not going to be able to get out of D Road through the town.
That's true, I mean,
Yeah.
how many people are from Luxahachi are going through the road?
But that's the
Yeah,
point, that's
you-
why we want it there.
Yeah.
But it benefits everybody on the letter roads, because even if you're not like A road, would have a break, and the purpose was
Yeah.
to provide a traffic break. for the
Otherwise, you're going to have to
roads.
funnel all the traffic down to F Road.
Right.
Use that signal.
I would ask the town council, again, if you're not sure the priority, and move forward. I think D road traffic light is important. We go by there every day, stop at D road every day, and it's very bad. Most of the traffic comes from acreage, for sure, and I think we have to protect our lives. Don't let people,
No left turn off Seminole Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I used to go up to Southern and down, just to go
well,
just
did
drop
you
off
see
my
that
kids.
they kind of really 4-lane at the East Coast, so I think they're going to do it. Reduce the traffic flow, get more room. Okay, we all done this with the capital budget including. Thank you for bringing to briefing. Okay, let's move on to number 6, closing comments. Public?
Don't we have to do these things?
I think,
Oh, we have this too?
No, you're right.
Okay.
no, I think D Road traffic light should be number 1 rather than, that's my personal opinion. Collecting canal is fine, but I think, like I said, every single one in town uses, passes through Okeechobee at some point. And to me, that's my opinion.
Sure.
We're a little long. Good, but we were a little long tonight.
There's a lot of transfer.
Because we have a surveys.
We still have some more filibuster to go.
This was called knowledge transfer.
It is,
I thought it was a good meeting, and it was a little long, but,
not quite now.
we could have been more efficient in some of our discussion, but good job done by you guys in providing me information on the capital improvement plan and, the other information you provided to us. We appreciate it.
Virginia?
Thank you for transferring your knowledge and informing us that if we put in golf cart roads and little trails, we can protect ourselves from the state possibly. And I look forward to going over the rest of this thing.
Mr. Ma?
I'll withhold my comments till we get to the next agenda.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, concluding administrative remarks. Anything we missed?
We give the reimbursements.
Yeah.
Which you have questions. But I think everything.
Contract with insurance reimbursement?
Oh, that's the item that Perla provided to you tonight. 2002.
There was a question,
2013.
what was that, a question about 2 months ago?
Yeah, I think so. But it gives you all of our major vendors and the filed insurances they have with us. It's more or less for your information. And if you
So
have
we're well
questions-
protected, huh?
Yeah, there's one question. I thought that you could only get workers' comp personal exemptions if you were a corporation. You can
No.
get it for an individual.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, you have to, if you have no employees and you can go to,
That's state law.
For an individual.
I forget where it exactly is, but it also depends on your category. Some categories you have to pay, like construction, and some are free.
Okay, that's what, yeah, I've
They-
never seen it on an individual, that's what caught my eye. so.
We have it on two of them, Frank and two in Taylor. On our company, all of our employees are covered, but Bill and I are exempt because we're owners, we're not going to.
Right, that's why I'm used to it being like the owners of a corporation. That's where I
No,
was.
they have to carry it, but if you're an individual sole proprietor, you're not required. You can get the exemption from the state.
Okay. Thank you.
But I would tell you, if you open for comment, is that it would behoove the town to consider some standard requirements that would be applied to all owners regarding insurance.
Oh, I thought we had those.
It says here, no insurance requirements at all. There's
Oh,
some
where do you-
specific, there's no specific language. Some people have it, but it's not required. Other people don't have it.
Oh, yeah.
When Perla and I were doing the negotiation with several of the vendors, when contracts were being
I see on the attorneys.
extended or whatever, we were finding out that in each contract, there was a different insurance requirement. And we were very surprised that we thought we were gonna have to try to standardize this.
Sometimes they didn't have a requirement, but the vendors provided their certificates anyway. And so those limits are included that are filed with us.
Based on what you didn't set a standard, they said, here, we have it, here's our certificate of insurance.
And they're all current and they're all up to date in the files.
It's a good idea to have a standard, you're right, or standards.
I mean, it's kind of arbitrary now. We don't like you, so your insurance is 10 million. Oh, we like you, never mind.
It just, this has come up several times, and I thought if I gave you a spreadsheet, at least everybody would know what we do have in place.
That's good, we should,
Thank you, very nice.
Okay, good. Professional engineering services?
Yes, we talked about it a little bit tonight, very quickly. What we did is we provided the agenda report that was provided to council at this last meeting. What you see is, as you know, when you do engineering services and services of that type, it requires compliance with the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act, otherwise known as CCNA, under 287055. What it called, I'll let you read, you can read the agenda report yourself. It really outlines what we did. Basically, you have to rate the engineers based upon criteria in the state statute, plus our own criteria in the RFQ that we issued. What ended up happening was we rated these firms on the 30th, and you can see that the top 3 firms go to backup that we picked, and then we heard presentations from these firms on May 8th, I believe it was, and the selection committee went with Kesher Barrett and Associates for General Town Engineering, AB Engineering for Land Surveying, and Simmons and White for Traffic Engineering. We are now in the process of, what you do is with each selected vendor, you go into a competitive negotiation. What they're doing is they're providing me with their prices, we're reviewing them, and then we'll work out and negotiate a contract with each of them. The nice thing about, in addition to AB Engineering as our land surveyor, Kesher Barrett and Associates, who is our general town engineer, also has a very strong land surveying background. They try to get the land surveying as well. As you can see, they were in the land surveying final 3. So we do have 2 entities that we could go to if we need for land surveying. So we have What we also did is we were looking for environmental engineering and civil engineering inspection services. We didn't want to have that many vendors and that many contracts out, so we rolled those services into the general town engineering vendor. As I indicated, we're in the process of doing that now, and speaking with the town attorney, it is our desire to try to have the contracts before town council for their June 18th meeting, so they can go ahead and ratify the contracts, and then it's a question of moving forward with the engineering vendors.
You have enough time to negotiate with them, June 18th start?
Hopefully it'll be enough time.
Only 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Hopefully it'll be enough time. Right now, I'm in the process of getting their request for, for their fees, so we'll take a look at them.
Here the backup, you mean that if we cannot conclude the negotiation for the first 3, they'll go to the 4th. Backup is number 4.
No, the backup on this sheet was simply as it related to the presentation. We had a short list 3. If one of those 3 did not want to come and do a presentation, then the backup, they were at the 4th, basically.
Oh, okay.
And we moved them in.
So right now we negotiate with the first, and then if it doesn't work out to
Right, for example,
so-
Simmons and White.
Okay.
Simmons and White was our first choice, and Stanley was our second choice, and that's the way it ended up after the presentations. What I do is I go and enter into competitive negotiations with Simmons and White. If for some reason we can't come to an agreement, then we start the process over and we go to Stanley and try to negotiate with them.
Okay.
And the reasons for that could be if their fees are out of the ballpark or whatever, some reason why we can't get together on a negotiation.
Well, good luck with that. Any other questions? Sure. No. I guess we're done.
Good meeting.
So our next meeting is June 24th, Monday. Everybody make it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good meeting. Do we have a motion that,
I'll make that one.
a second?
I'll second.
No, they want to stay.
All those in favor? Both moving carried. Thank you.
Spent $500 in April for firefighter.
It just was a donation, and it was kind of charitable, that it was sponsorship. I'm thinking, was there a way that the town could do maybe scholarships? That's what that led to.
They could.
It looks like sponsorship, is sponsor a child. Right.
I stopped.
Into the whole thing now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I looked at the
Try
trees
to
and
force them to come in to sign
nothing
up.
to where it was. Nothing to what it was. Because it was a cold flowing.
Thank you.
I noticed that that's the way it was. That if, years it got cold and it stayed cold for several, for, a week or so at a time, the trees had whatever they had.
Lion timber will show up like that, right?
Wow.
Bye, Cheryl.
99. 24th, after next Thursday, I don't care how long. See, the next Thursday, the end of plan, we'll be dancing all the way through.
Yeah, call me if there's anything, if you need to change anything.
Right, because I'm not, I know it's this week.
All right.
Right, and this one I'm not.
If you don't, if I'm unavailable or a meeting or anything, I'll give you permission to use the short for me on that.
Talk carefully back to,
Right.
Oh, that's being crossed off the list. We're smoking.
We're smoking. Yeah, we're doing a slow crawl.
I said to Bill, this is just the to-do list for this week.
Okay, somebody needs to
They just want to get all the money they can.
Oh, easy.
We can do all the expansion of the terminal.
Oh my God, it's at least $1 million.
Yes,
Because
And then-
there's at least
and then council wants-
250,000 for traffic lights.
just the lights.
And council wants them to do a wire signal instead of the mass card, they're not gonna do that.
You said we could pick up the shirts tomorrow?
Yes, come by, I'm so sorry, you're the only one that's small.
No, I'm a medium.
Oh, no, you're small, they're big.
No, I'm a medium.
No, you're tiny. I can see
I've
them.
never seen it.
They're not like that, they're dressy, sure.
Oh,
Oh, where, do you know that, we were gonna have a, we have a council all sit together and eat a meal, we have roasts.
First.
You're kidding.
Usually even have
Oh,
stones.
rotate through.
Oh my
Good night,
God.
Carla.
Hey, good night.
Thank
Good to see you. I'm leaving to San Francisco. I'm out of here. Where are you going? We're leaving Friday morning. So I stayed and we do this. Just for a week, and then I come back, and I stay. I'm not gonna be at the next meeting. I'm gonna be gone for a month and a half.
That's,
Where are you going?
Oh my goodness. North Carolina.
Oh.
then we called the meeting.
Hey,
We
now
told them,
listen, I'm thinking maybe, hey, you, oh yeah, you see that? Because my other one's broke. In the middle of a fit, I broke it. But look, you see my former mayor in Belgrade? I was with him last weekend and looked at the, he gave me the turtles. Because he says now I'm on Waxahachie and they're turtle people. But this is a sea turtle, but he said I couldn't find a gopher turtle. But he thought I might appreciate it.
they are saying that our project here is moving back to. Look at the traffic light, how many years we are on?
Well, let me tell you, that's what I was gonna tell you. That traffic light is not 300, it's gonna be closer to 600,000. Because, you know, we have to do turn lanes
I
on
can't-
all
We
four
should,
roads.
we are spending money, we are spending money on collecting them, we should be spending on fuel.
Because the council wants
You
to
know,
make
they're
them
thinking about it from their
OGIM. That's Ron Gerald's top priority is the OGIM on Black now. Now, you understand on North Road, that 3/4 of a mile, here's the problem
Do
with
both,
this.
do both.
Well, we're going to, but you gotta get the council to decide. They don't make decisions.
You really don't
That
have.
little 3/4 of a mile
Yeah,
North
we'll
Road,
look at it. What good is-
that
what
is
good
not
is it?
owned by
What
the
good is that
district.
right
They
away
didn't
now?
have the easement, that's why they wouldn't do it. The town through the OGIM is on private property.
You know.
It's probably, they're not gonna be able to give us, even when they get it, if they got the deed from
Scott, the.
Well,
because,
that I can see them
you
do
know,
that.
North Road has done this over time, and just because there's a gravel, that doesn't mean that's where the easement is. If you think that we only have 60 feet on
I think they're
Connecting
just using
Canal,
one test. They're
if
trying to
you
see
look
how
at
much we're
Connecting Canal Road
for
and
what
the
the
width
property
of that
I think it
canal,
is.
it's more than 60. There's the problem, and on North Road,
No, I've been
they
talking to
wouldn't,
Steve
that's
and-
why they
It's-
wouldn't do
it's-
the 3/4.
No, because the B road wasn't OGIM, if B road was OGIM, it would have touched that.
No, that part of North Road, we could do something. Not one of these.
See how
where the
all
easement
this
is.
guy, vice president.
When they did their survey,
It sounds like they're making a lot of-
I was
a lot of
thinking,
excuses.
why the heck the lawyer, somebody can say that, yeah or nay? We pay for somebody, some consultant to give us an opinion.
The only opinion that's come out of that
Because John said, well, Hank.
firm,
you know, there's an opinion by the law firm.
but
yes.
it does not support the position that has been proffered.
Right now, in the scheme of things.
That doesn't sound-
It supports a different position.
Well, yeah, no, it doesn't.
Hey, by the way, did you
You're
know
correct
like
about that.
finally it opened up?
Thank God.
I know.
How do you get this thing off of here?
Oh, it does this, it lifts like,
Actually, not even sure.
did you see how I did that? Are you like impressed? Why is that light
The way
on?
the district did it, I
Because
agree,
the-
actually.
Oh, do I turn this off?
Yeah, somewhere.
No, I'm not gonna touch it.
Trying to get that now, you know. Hopefully that'll be, that'll be fairly imminent. I think the
But
district really has to.
it's like we're going in a circle.
Oh, I know, it does seem like that.
Well, you know, if they told me this is off and this light's on, it's still off.
All right.
So how is your son?
The one that did the.
Is he exhausted?
No, oh, no.
Oh, God.
How much weight do you lose running out?
Oh, man, I can imagine, Bill, you wouldn't have had to do Jenny Craig.
Oh, yeah, he probably dropped about 25, 30 pounds that whole weekend.
Oh, probably in one day.
He came back, he looked so skinny.
I bet you.
I mean, I said, you look really skinny, and then he got offended, you know, 'cause.
Oh,
couldn't open my
you
big
know, he probably lost 20 pounds.
I'm
Look,
sure he
you
did,
know,
and
He
he
probably lost
doesn't
20
have-
pounds a day.
He doesn't have 20 pounds to lose either.
God.
He's skinny anyway.
Well,
You know, it's a wonder, if it would have been me, I'd have been in a hospital dehydrated on top of everything else. You know how
That
much you had to carry your food and your sleep on your back. It wasn't just
Listen, let me
running.
tell you something. When
Like
I
at the
was-
marathon in Boston.
When he was here, he said, is there a park where I can run? So I took him down to the preserve, it's over
Yeah.
there off, well,
Oh, yeah,
you know where it
well,
is, it's
yes.
actually in the acreage.
Yes.
And so I dropped him off and we walked, I had the kids, and you know, I walked the kids and brought them back, and then brought them back to my house. And Brandon said he'd just run back to the house, it wouldn't be a problem. So he did the preserve run, which was 2.5 miles, and then he ran back. I mean, he ran
You think this is our extension cord?
But as a little kid, he was super, he was kind of happy. That kid used to put it on the tree, put it down on the floor, and he'd go straight to that wall, and then over to that wall, and then over to that wall, and up. I'd rather go to the town and get a new laptop than have to go through this ordeal.
I agree.
Here.
I think the town should.
I'm telling you, the town's gonna buy a laptop.
Good night, Lee.
Finally. Oh, dear, I gotta get all their little things.
Well, I don't know what happened to these on.
You know what it is? He's looking at stuff and doing the other.
Hey, is this extension cord ours or theirs? That must be theirs, doesn't look like anything we own.
Extra book if you want.
Oh, thank you. That's not ours, we don't own anything that nice. That extension cord. Oh, it doesn't fit in.
Why did you get what context? You were there and he goes, that he works for you. I go, well, he does.
They were from Thomas Garden College? What, did he want Mark job?
No, no, he didn't. calling for opportunity.
Who is the finance director for public
Oh,
works?
I can visualize it. There's Mary Pickle.
Yeah,
She's the assistant.
Mary Anderson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mary Anderson Pickle. I've seen her in
Mary
company.
Anderson.
Yeah.
God, what a bad
Why
laugh.
can't I remember?
What's his name?
Did she work for the garden at one time? I didn't know
Who? Mary?
that.
No, Mary worked as the Francine's assistant finance director. Wow.
Oh, pickle work.
Yeah,
for years. Anything in the
No,
paper?
that was old. Is Will in Wellington or not?
Lawsuit settlement discussion. Wellington, not. We're in there. We're in the back.
Yeah, we're
We got a
in
very
the
shitty article. Let's do.
I didn't look.
Nothing
I don't
in
even
there?
care.
Too
You
much.
know what? I don't give a shit. They can rip us to shreds for all I care anymore.
Okay.
I don't see
We got everything, right? We're good?
I don't see
We
it.
got everything we needed out
I
of
don't
there?
see it.
turned off the auto. Why would you do that?
I thought your phone was on the...
No, I have to sync it.
Oh, I thought it automatically did that.
No, it doesn't. You don't need to call me because we're right behind each other.
I was just gonna ask you a question.
I told you I was going to get myself
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Well, I didn't know that until it just started beeping at me. I said I better
This is stop. I'll give you like $30. What do you think? Is that enough to get you home in time?
I don't know if I'm going to get it. So call me. I'm going to get close. Right. I'll go up her house.
Yeah.
Actually, I have my car, but no, use it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, just so that it's just really good to have to come to something.
Right.
And, then I'll go with, you want to read 10 in the morning?
Oh, yeah, it's at 8 o'clock. What time is it, Ellen?
I think it's at 9. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's at 9.
In the cafeteria,
Yeah.
right? Do I have to?
It's at 9. Yeah, it's at 9. It's probably about an hour, but then she has to go to work. So what I was going to do is I'll just take her to work in her car, because I drove a little bit today. I drove up to the mechanic.
Right.
Take my battery, so I had to get another battery.
Yeah.
So, so I'm gonna take her to work, and then I'll go down the route, because I got to be there 11:15.
Oh, okay.
Last time I was there like an hour and a half, because all of a sudden they're really, really busy.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to screw you up,
Okay.
you know?
Well, then,
So I'll be okay.
So
Yeah,
now
I
can we go
I
to-
just tread lightly,
okay.
you know?
If we go straight to the cafeteria, we don't have to check in with the front desk, right?
I do think you have to go in the front.
You have to go to the front?
Yeah. But you're probably on file.
Oh, I am.
They'll just ask to see if you're not on file.
Yeah.
They just, ask to see the license, but, they make everybody check it out.
Okay, I just didn't know for those things. Okay. Okay, well then I'll see you.
I think that is right.
Oh, I am, but I'm glad I talked to you because I had forgotten completely about Ruby.
Oh, good.
Okay, well then I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow, Dan sent me a whole bunch of stuff.
No.
I did the eyes of all this stuff, and then we read all this stuff about Erica. I told her it was, I didn't have to go back to
I lost that.
She's saying that you like for him and Erica to be able to talk and speak to her relationship, and then I said to him, please believe, taking on his feedback, and I said, I'm sorry, for you, but, I'm going to try to ask him about his department, and then I kept texting him, so, I'll go to tomorrow.
Is he not letting go? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna be as easy as you think.
No, I don't think so. But, so when are you flying out of Miami?
I'm flying out of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then.
All right, well, ticket, and if he has that bill, what's to say he doesn't pay it? Because that's the only way he can get back at him. You know? But people do that, especially when they get hurt like that. You know? Oh, look, all I'm telling you is the association knows and when you and when you guys said out, I told him the other day what he said. I asked her, are you sure you're not doing something already? understand, but I don't think it's gonna come in, that's one council member in one town. I think, I don't know. I think you have a better chance with the league, only the city managers association isn't a good place to go, because you're trying to get rid of their position and have a management company, they like what they do. Working directly for the government. So I think the finance and city managers is the worst place to go. Number one, is you're not making decisions like that. You're not making management association. Nobody's gonna put themselves out of their own job.
First dollar to borrow $2.7 million, spending $1.5. Where's the other $1.2 million?
Well, all I'm telling you is, I don't think they looked at that close enough, because, or shut their mouth shut, or anybody, because on that $270,000 per mile, nobody's gonna see it. But they don't look, because, you know, when you see 933,000, you think those are just one survey, it's not. That's why it was important to say even 65,000 just told you. Okay, fine.